Jai Mataji. Welcome to today's episode. In the previous episode, we focused on the importance of knowing oneself. And in today's episode, we will focus on what it takes to master oneself. When a person goes through the activity of understanding themselves, only then will they be able to identify what needs to be changed. And this is not an easy task, but it can be achieved by two things. The first one is constant effort, and the second one is the grace of God. So today we're going to take a deep dive into what is required for this journey and what it will look like. So let's learn from this example. I see there's a person who's gone through their own questioning process and identified that they have a tendency to want to control situations in their life. So this person has a dominant personality. And because of this, the person has identified that there's a need for surrender and to just try and stop controlling every situation in life. Now, surrendering will allow us to connect and express with the divine. This person identified a need for surrendering, but didn't fully understand what surrender means. And so this person decided that they wanted to start learning about surrender and then apply it in their day-to-day lives. And this is the first step. See, the first thing in mastering yourself is to identify what exactly needs to be mastered. So this person made a decision and made a schedule. And according to the plan, this person was going to spend 2 hours every day reading stories about surrendering. And then they would take 1 point from that story and apply that to all what they did during the rest of the day. So, have sort of the approach of learning a little and doing a little bit. And that is the second step. You make a plan. So you only do what is supposed to be done and you focus only on that. So this person got going on the plan, did it for a week and started making progress. Now, when week 2 came, this was also the week for the first IPL cricket game. So this person said, you know what? Today I'm going to take a break from reading and applying what I'm learning. Today, I'm simply going to enjoy cricket. Now we all know that IPL is not a one-day game. So slowly, the plan for reading 2 hours was taken up by a plan of watching cricket for 2 hours. And this didn't just stay for 2 hours, it continued on for more and more hours. For this person to progress on the goal, they should have not been watching cricket. See, this is the third important step to be mindful of, which is to master yourself. Make sure you are not doing what you're not supposed to be doing. This person was not supposed to be watching cricket, and that's exactly what this person was doing. You see, so to keep on going in this mastering journey, a person must have a strong will. Mother was asked, how do you develop and strengthen your will? And she answered, it's just like you would do with training your muscles. You see, when we go to train our muscles, we take a step-by-step method and then we do it a little by little. Now, sometimes we have to take a break, but then eventually we go back at it. Now, developing the willpower is exactly the same. But we see this lack of willpower everywhere around us. Everyone is trying to achieve something and we see that, something just isn't helping them get there. So oftentimes, if you're seeing a lack of willpower in achieving your goal, just be mindful that you just can't stop right away. A person approached me very recently and basically they said that there's an issue that is in children and in adults, which is everyone is spending a lot of time on their phones. And some people have tried. So what they do is they take their phones and then they say, okay, in the evenings, we're not going to see our phone at all. They do this for a couple of weeks, and then slowly, this habit comes back. If you want to change a habit, it's going to take more energy, and to try and change it, start by changing it little by little, exactly the same way you would develop your muscles. So say you're in a situation where you spend 4 hours on the phone every day. Then in your first week, cut that phone time to 3.5 hours. And then in the second week, cut it down to 3 hours. And then continue cutting it little by little every week to a point where you have reached a time frame that works best of you. With continued effort and time, the goal will surely be reached. You see, oftentimes when we start something new, we're very enthusiastic about it. And that is exactly what we see when New Year's comes, right? We see all these people having New Year's goals. And, some people have these goals of losing weight. And they say, I'm going to lose X amount of kilograms in the first weeks. And then you go and you talk to them after the weeks are over, you see that they have completely stopped it. What happens is that eventually people start becoming impatient when they don't see the results that they want. And they will go into this mode where they'll question themselves and they will ask themselves, is this even worth it? I'm still where I had started. Nothing has moved. So clearly this isn't working. Enough. I'm done, right? And all of us have done this self-talk. So when you see yourself in a situation like this, you must start talking to your vital, because the energy is being driven by the vital. So if this happens to you, this is all you got to say. Dear vital, keep calm. You're going to do what needs to be done. And you need to obey rather than protest against what we need to do. See, with such self-talk, and do this constantly, you'll see that you'll be able to pick up on your goals again. These thoughts are not going to stop right there. It will come up, right? And you can also take a different approach. Use some humor while talking to your vital. So you can say things like, Vital, it's not April Fool's. Don't try to fool me again. This prank is not going to work on me. Okay? So give up now and let's move on, shall we? The journey to master yourself needs a lot of patience and a lot of perseverance. It won't happen overnight, but if you have a strong willpower, you will be able to take it till the end. One of the most important things that will dictate if you're successful is how sincere you are to the goal that you want. Sincerity is just being honest to yourself about what you're doing. So just remember one thing. You cannot cheat the power that knows everything and that sees everything. So when you take up a goal, please be honest. You see, many people have this urge to look good, right? And you see this in their conversations where they will display as though everything is perfect, they have no weaknesses, and they're always trying to outsmart others. So with time, you see that not only are they doing this in front of other people, they're also doing this as the talk to themselves. And that means they're not even sincere to who they truly are. So to be sincere, say what you mean, do what you say, and express what you feel. Now that's a very important lesson for adults to remember. Please don't ever lie to a child. See, children are able to tell lies right away. And if they catch on the fact that the parents are lying, they will start doing exactly the same. So don't be upset when your child does it then, because they saw you doing it. The other thing to be mindful of is never try to get a child to do something by fear. For example, we've heard the statement before where parents will say, if you don't eat, you will be punished, or if you don't eat, you won't get this. You see, a child needs to be taught that eating is needed for the benefit of the health and the body. So please don't connect eating with fear. And the next point to be mindful of is don't scold a child. I know that's difficult, right? But we all have to learn to control our emotions. And if a child does something wrong, instead of scolding them, if you want the child to learn to be sincere, take them through the investigation approach and ask the child about what happened, why it happened, how can the child be more careful next time, and ask them what did they learn from it. And last but not least, please don't lecture children. The best learning occurs just by observing. It's called leading by example. So if you want sincerity to be taught in your child, then you also need to start doing it in your life. Say, as we go on this journey of mastering ourselves, one of the most beautiful parts that will happen is that we will be faced with opportunities to see how well we're doing. And through that, we will learn whether we're there yet or whether we're not there yet. So it's amazing at how nature puts checks in play. So let's take this example, and I want you to think about what you would do in this case. You've made a lot of money and you are living a lavish life, and you realize it's now time to give back to the society and you want to be generous. So what you will see happening is opportunities are going to come your way where you can make monetary donations. So with that, you start making some donations and you think that now I've hit my goal of being generous. Then as soon as you feel that you've hit this goal, all of a sudden you'll see that times are changing. Your business may not be doing as well. You'll still have money, but things are still on the tight end. If an opportunity comes your way and you're asked for donations, what are you going to do? Do you give the money or do you say, no, things are still tight? Now, if you say no, it means you haven't hit your goal, but you may choose to say yes. And if you choose to say yes, that means you are still on the pathway of becoming generous. You're going to be faced with an even more difficult challenge. Tomorrow, your situation may worsen. And say you're put in a situation where now you've had to shut down your business, you are living off paycheck to paycheck, and an opportunity comes your way. What are you going to do now? Are you going to make that monetary donation or are you going to say no? See, what you choose to do will dictate how well you've reached in being generous. I want you to, just as a comparison, hear this story. So this story occurred when Ram, Sita, and Lakshman were in the forest. And there was one time Sita was really thirsty. Lakshman tried to look for water, but he couldn't because it was just a dense forest. And just at that time, there was a peacock that came to help. So what the peacock did is that it started flying in the direction of the water. And as it was flying, it dropped feathers along the way so that Ram and Lakshman would be able to get to the water. Now, eventually, they were able to get to the water, but by the time the peacock reached there, it had lost all its feathers and it eventually died. See, the peacock gave itself fully to accomplish the mission of serving the Lord. And with this example, I'd like to go back to the situation I spoke of earlier. If you were living paycheck to paycheck and an opportunity came for you to be generous, would you be willing to give up something to stand the test of generosity, or would you say no? And compare yourself to the peacock who gave up its life just in service. When we choose to master the qualities of the divine, challenges will come to us as checks in place, and they will also give opportunities to grow. Now, to keep on going on this journey, there are 4 things that will help along the way. The first one is the ability to concentrate on what needs to be achieved. Concentration is the bridge between intention and achievement. When you've trained yourself to concentrate, it will help you stay on the path. If you want to develop this in children, the approach is very simple. Find something they like and use this as a base to improve their concentration. So say you have a child who loves to listen to stories, and you're the person reading the stories to the child. So start off with a 2-minute story, and at the end of the 2 minutes, ask the child to repeat the story in their words. Now challenge the child further by then extending the story time from 2 minutes to 5 minutes, and then ask the child to repeat the story. See, continue to increase the challenge by increasing the time frame, so you could go from 5 minutes to 10 minutes. In this way, what you'll see happening is that the child will be forced to listen to the story because the child is also forced to repeat the story. Now, a second area that will help a person on the journey of mastering himself or herself is listening to the inner voice within them. See, God communicates with us through this inner voice, and we all experience it. When we do something wrong, there's a feeling or this voice inside of us that makes us know that what we did was wrong. And children are aware of this. A few months back, I was speaking with a child, and he was upset because he wanted to buy a book, and his father said no because he had other books that he hadn't read. And the father's justification was valid. So I waited till this child calmed down, and then I asked him afterwards if it was correct for him to have gotten upset. And he said no, he shouldn't have gotten angry. So I asked him, well, then how did you know? And he said, there was this voice inside me that told me. See, so children are aware of this voice within them. So make them aware of this voice and let them use this as a guidance in their day-to-day activities. So a third area that will help in this journey is understanding how the environment plays a role in shaping who we are, and knowing that this environment can either help us progress further or it can also hinder ourselves. So we must know how to free ourselves from anything that is coming on from the environment that we grew up in. So take an example of a child who was raised in the family with the mindset that, if he or she didn't pray to God, then God would be upset. You see, so this child is now going to connect fear with God. And as the child grows older, there's one important thing that he or she needs to do, which is learn to make God a friend. So at this time, the child needs to be aware that the fear of God that came in him was a function of the family that he was raised in. And that was just a belief that the family had. And so for him to move forward, he must drop this fear. So today, take a moment and reflect on the views and the beliefs that you have and assess them, where they're coming from. Is it coming from the fact that you were raised in a specific environment, or is it actually coming from a source of truth? You see, often when we do this analysis, we'll realize what are beliefs or views that are holding us from progressing. And train your children to do this too. Right? If you haven't started doing this, please go ahead and start this now. And one of the last areas that's going to help is being mindful of what you tell your children. See, say your child comes to you tomorrow and says that, it's their dream to fly. What are you going to say? You can say, that's not possible. It's only a dream. That's not even real. Parents, I beg you, please don't do that. If a child comes and says something that seems impossible right now, it is your responsibility to make them dream of everything being possible. And encourage them, because you know what? God is unlimited possibilities. And if that is who God is, then who are we to say about limitations? As you do this, this will create a faith inside them and inside their body that they can achieve the goals that they want. Even if they are unrealistic today, tomorrow, with the grace of God, they can be realistic. And with that, we are at the end of today's session. Just to summarize, in today's session, we focused on how to master yourself with a strong will and being sincere. I also highlighted 4 additional things that will help you on the way and described how checks will happen when you are on your journey of mastering yourself. I hope you were able to walk away with something new in this session. See you all in the next session. Jai Mataji.